Welcome everybody. My name is Frank Schwarzenau. I'm joined here by Brint O'Hearn from Slalom. And I'm excited to talk to you today about cloud operations, about what you guys see for the next years coming, and anything that you want to share with a larger audience.
Awesome.
So I'm in a partner organization. I run the Cloud Operations Competency. And yeah, over to you.
Yeah, I'm Brint O'Hearn. For those that aren't familiar with Slalom, we've been a partner with AWS since basically the beginning of AWS. So I lead one of our practice teams. If you're not familiar, we have about 45 markets globally. And we just announced as a Global Services Partner of the Year. So really excited about that. And thanks, Frank, for having me.
Yeah, so Slalom is a huge name in my world for sure, in the partner world. And you won a lot of awards very recently. But for anybody that is not familiar with Slalom, could you just maybe give a couple of details on how big, what markets, like where you operate? That would be awesome.
Sure. We're in 45 markets. We're in 8 countries. We've got about 12,000 consultants, and we're a business and technology consulting firm. So we focus on like an outcome of the customer, what they want to do, and how we can bring in AWS services and solutions as a part of a larger outcome. So that's really what Slalom's known for, and that's kind of our bread and butter, business and technology consulting.
Awesome. And I know that you're part of a lot of AWS programs. I run the Cloud Operations Competency, and we're here with the Cloud Operations team. So I wanted to thank you at this point for being a launch partner for the competency. We launched the Cloud Operations Competency in April 2023, and Slalom was one of the very few launch partners there. So just to kind of level set everybody, Cloud Operations in the AWS world includes 5 solution areas. That is governance, cloud financial management, observability, compliance and auditing, and centralized ops management, which includes ITSM integrations. So we validate our competency partners against these solution areas, against various use cases within those solution areas, and we give that stamp of approval for the best partners out there and award the competency. So thanks for being a competency partner. So having established that you're very well-rounded and you have a lot of great offerings in cloud operations, maybe you can talk a little bit about other superpowers that you think customers out there are interested in, what Slalom brings to the table.
Absolutely. Some of the other superpowers that we do have are around like helping customers establish things like platform engineering practices, which is key to being really efficient with your operations and your cloud operations, modern software development, building modern platforms and tools. So we are really excited about building new things with our clients and helping them evolve their business to meet the demands of what's coming tomorrow.
Awesome. I just mentioned what the definition for cloud operations is in the AWS world of the 5 solution areas, but I just wanted to check with you, is Slalom defining CloudOps in the same way? What does Slalom understand as cloud operations?
Right. I think it's very similar. We kind of had a little conversation before this about like how certain phrases and words can be used, but I do like the structure that the competency program actually put around it to define kind of, hey, here are the pillars and how we think of it. So I think it actually kind of helps. I think it's helping people put a little bit more structure around it, whereas before they go, well, we think we should be better with patch management and how we monitor and how we do this. But it gave much more concrete, like, hey, this is how we think of it, where people are able to kind of rally around it and use similar language and structure.
Yeah, and the way that we define cloud operations for our customers to define a cloud operational model is super important to integrate those individual solution areas, right? It's not just about one pillar of observability, but you have to know, if you get an alert, how do you integrate that with your ticketing system? How do you make sure that while you do that, everything is compliant? And we need partners like Slalom that can help a customer to stitch those areas together and create that overall cloud operational model that is optimized and that is good for the customer. So kind of switching to trends, I'm super interested in what kind of like bigger trends you see in the market right now in the immediate future.
Absolutely. I'll highlight 2. One's probably pretty predictable with a lot of excitement around things like Gen AI. I think people have started to realize the importance of their data and the governance around that, how they operate and maintain those systems in cost-effective ways. So I think people have started to figure out like, hey, we need to get down to back to basics a bit with how we operate in order to take advantage of some of these new things coming out to really differentiate ourselves. That's one trend. And the other bit is I think people have also realized kind of with the macroeconomic state we're in, that they need to be more efficient in how they operate kind of their larger cloud footprints, where they are appropriately scaled, they're cost effective in terms of how they deploy, and they're not having to do one-off programs here and there to go, oh, we need to go figure out a way to be more efficient with our spend and reduce waste. So seeing a lot of that right now.
So you're saying they should have an integrated cloud operational model across 5 solution areas?
Say it better myself.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Cool. So just kind of touching on some of these trends, what are some solutions that Slalom is bringing to market, or some like more recent solutions that you recently launched?
Yeah, absolutely. As it relates to operations and things that we've spent a lot of time on are things like platform engineering. So helping teams build out scalable, robust platforms that help them operate their AWS environments at scale. And then also things like SRE, which goes site reliability engineering for those not familiar, which is something that we're seeing more customers start to rally around, where they start to take some of those pillars and they use that as a part of their operating model going to cloud. So those are 2 exciting areas that we're seeing a lot more traction, and they're frankly fun areas to work in.
Yeah, that's true. And you mentioned a couple of buzzwords there, but you also said, it's going back to basics. I really like that, because I think that there's a lot of buzzwords out there. Somehow everything becomes an LLM over the last couple of months. So I just wanted to check with you, is there any kind of misconceptions that you see that you hear from customers or in the market in general?
I don't know that I would say there's necessarily big misconceptions. I think there's a lot of curiosity, and people are trying to learn what these things are useful for and what they're not. So I think AWS, for example, with AWS products and services, they highlight a lot with talks at conferences of how they leverage AI to be more efficient for how they deliver services for customers. I think to also inspire customers to start to ask them about, like, hey, how should we think about things like ML and AI, and with Bedrock release as well, like how should we think about large language models? So I would say it's more of like, you think of like a large learning curve for the industry. I think people have started to like kind of tick up. And so they wonder, right? The ChatGPT, like things of that nature. What could that do for us? Like, how could we unlock that for us? And so the really cool thing there is we get to put on our creative hats with them, and we get to imagine like what could be possible and what could make sense for kind of your industry, the kinds of data you have or could have, and do something exciting.
Yeah, no, I see that too. And there's a lot of customers that are very excited to check out those new services, but they're a little scared of, what is the governance around it? What kind of financial impact does it have? And how do I actually connect these new functionalities and new use cases to direct business outcome of how much is actually going to be in there for me, top line and bottom line, right? So those are conversations that are really important to have with customers, and that's where I'm really grateful for partners like Slalom to have these conversations with our customers and be sort of the expert in the room to kind of level set everything. Of course, you're in our partner network, in our partner world. I can go on my system in AWS. AWS is very data obsessed, so I can see what kind of exciting deals you guys are working on, and there are a lot. But maybe you can share some customer stories or some deals that you've recently seen in the market that Slalom has worked on. That excite you.
Yeah, one I'd like to highlight is a client we were wrapping up a project with that we've been working on for the past year, building on a completely modern platform. So the cool thing there is, they're familiar with AWS. They've been a client of AWS for quite some time, but they really wanted to take that leap forward. And they said, hey, look, what does good look like? We want you to help model that for us and help build our teams out so that they can take the reins and operate those environments. So we're in the point of that project now, that bittersweet moment where they start to take more of the reins, and you're so proud of what you've built with them, and they're very proud of what they've built and what they've accomplished and what they've learned. But what's also been unique about it, and this is kind of a value add for Slalom and kind of our human approach, is we've connected them with other peers of theirs, and we've started to get some information sharing going across some of their peers, where they realize, hey, if you're able to build this here, and we can build this, if we work together, like we could actually make this better for all of us. So some of those connections we've been able to do within the industry, this is more of a public services story, has been very, very cool.
Yeah, I do agree. I think especially when it comes to service level or like business objectives, the consulting partners come in and they bring a lot of value in, because it's not, say I'm just making this up, a manufacturing company, right? The manufacturing people, they only know their own world. But if you've worked with 10, 15, 20, 50 manufacturing companies, you can help set those SLOs and, kind of create that value through it. So there's a lot of exciting stuff going on. We're about to head into 2024. I'm wondering, what excites you most about the next year? What excites you most about 2024?
What excites me about 2024 is what that sets up for 2025. So we've talked about getting back to basics a little bit with data, start seeing where things like large language models and other capabilities start to go. So I'm really looking forward to what kind of experience our clients are going to run with that, and what kinds of things we can help them bring to market in 2024. And I actually think 2024 is going to be a giant springboard into 2025 with what's being built. So as weird as it sounds, I'm more excited about the year after next year than I am about next year.
I always say cloud years are like 5 years, like 1 year in cloud is like 5 years in normal life. There's so much development.
Yeah, and part of the excitement also, and with like re:Invent, there's a lot of launches of products and services and features. And this is specific to how you operate in the cloud. How you operate in the cloud in like AWS 5 years ago versus how you do it today versus 10 years ago, it's radically different. So one of the things I do look forward to in 2024 is like helping our customers evolve to use what is the best for you now, as opposed to like what maybe you set up in like 2015 or 2018, and how do you continue to improve and make yourself more efficient so you focus on solving for your customers as opposed to working and managing your infrastructure.
Yeah, that's right. So you talked so much about the offerings that you have. I would love to maybe for you to give some information to folks out there of how they can find out more about Slalom or where they should go, whether it's Marketplace or your website, or where can they find out more?
Totally. We are on the AWS Marketplace. You can find us there. And if you want just a quick link, slalom.com/AWS. Super simple. And that's got a lot more information around like cloud operations, competency, and other competencies that we're a part of. We're part of quite a number across specific, operations specialties, industries, kind of you name it. So
yeah, and you're doing a terrific job. I'm always impressed of how well you map to the individual AWS programs. It's not easy sometimes, and you're doing a terrific job. So at this point, I thank you for being a launch partner again for the Cloud Operations Competency. I know there's a lot of exciting stuff in store for you. I'm excited to see the future. And yeah, thanks for spending time.
Thank you, Frank. Awesome. Appreciate it.